Laura Renner here, founder of Freedom Acres, coming to you live on this windy but glorious day in Oakland, California. And this week we are talking about avoiding conflict or reducing the chance of it in your business. And kind of the big theme of that blog is having clear roles and responsibilities or expectations on your team. And even if it's only 80 or 90% clear, so you have a general idea of, each person has a general idea of the lane they're in, and maybe the sides of the lane blur with another teammates, but at least it's mostly clear. And then from there, you set expectations about how you want your team to interact with each other, so that when they are starting to operate in those sort of blurred areas on whose lane it is, there's not really any conflict that comes up with that. And so that's what the article talks about. And it was interesting because just Tuesday, I was talking with my mentor, and he said a phrase which I think he got from Thomas Jefferson. I need to look, but it says, when you have a common purpose, you're able to build a unity of effort. And I thought, wow, that is so fitting, one, for this blog, this topic this week, but also for business in general, and particularly for Freedom Makers, because we do have a common purpose with our mission, of course, but even within the internal team, our common purpose is making the company better, and therefore with it we can grow and create more work opportunities for military spouses and support more small businesses. And so we have this common purpose that we are in it to do whatever we can to always improve the company, so that we are providing a better service to our Freedom Makers and to our clients. And so, and with that leads us to have a unity of effort around that. And I will say, for me as the boss of the company, that really was enlightening to me about, one of the things I struggle personally as a leader is how much pressure, to put on my team, or how to drive them, or I don't know how to say it, but, I don't want to be someone who's like pushing too hard, but also, how do you incentivize people or motivate them? How do you motivate them? And it occurred to me that you can do that through this unity of effort. If you're focusing on this common purpose with the unity of effort, the motivation is going to become intrinsic if they buy into the purpose, which thankfully everyone at the core team does. And so that was really enlightening to me personally about using unity of effort as a way to achieve common purpose, which is also a way to have that motivation on the team. And I always say motivation is contagious. So when one of us is working hard, it makes the rest of us want to work hard too. So we feed off of each other's energy. And lastly, I just want to share an example. I think we did give a couple examples in the blog, but this is one I didn't include. And that was very early on. I hadn't really started to define the lanes yet. And I also hadn't really defined expectations clearly. And this was very early on, and we had a group call, and one person couldn't make the call, but I did ask him to watch the recording afterward. And on the call, we agreed that another person would work with him, the person that wasn't on the call, on a task. And when she reached out to him, his response was, "Why are you asking me? Why can't you do it yourself?" kind of thing. And so then that led to a little bit of conflict. But what I realize now, looking back on it, was, hadn't clearly said that why I wanted why she needed to reach out to him, why she couldn't do it herself, and also that I expected everyone to support each other and work together to achieve our initiatives. And so we've evolved since then, and I'd like to think a conflict like that wouldn't happen today, because that expectation is clear amongst the team, that we help each other and we support each other, and the lanes are clearer. Like I said, maybe 80-90% clear. We do have along the edges some gray area, but we recognize that and we work on fixing them as we can. Indeed, yesterday I ran across some old notes, and I was looking at some of the things I had written down that we were working on, and I realized that back then those were big deals that were seen as huge improvements, and we've evolved so much that I forget about them. They seem like second nature. Like that's, it's like it's hard for me to remember what the business was like before we had those tools, because they seem so ingrained now, but they were pretty revolutionary to us when we first rolled them out. And so it's just a sign of how your business evolves as it grows, and there's going to be time for conflict and all of that, but there are ways to reduce it. And one way is by defining the roles and responsibilities as clear as you can. Like, you don't have to have it, word for word written out in a job description that is going to be followed, and if not, that's not my job. We don't have that, but we have, in the blog I share, like, we have these general responsibilities or roles, and people fall within them, and then where the roles blur is where we work together respectfully to figure out the best way to handle it. And so, like I said, we're constantly working on it, trying to improve it. And then one final comment that I'll make, which we also didn't include in the blog, but so you're getting all these like insider, like behind the scenes tips, I guess, is that be very careful and be very cautious about interpreting tone in written communication. And I know people say that all the time, but you'd be surprised how much I still hear, well, she meant it this way in her email. It's like, you don't know that. And if you reframe it like she meant it a different way and reread the email, you can see that it could have been an entirely different meaning. And so I know I've had individual conversations with people when they're like, well, they said this. I'm like, did they? And so then that seems to help people not make assumptions about the tone of the writer. So just keep that in mind too, and use that as a challenge to yourself. Like if someone sends you an email and you think it's not polite or mean or weird or whatever, change it in your mind to say, oh, she's actually really happy, and then reread the email and see if you can pick up on a different tone. So and that's another way to reduce conflict. So I'll leave it there. Check out the blog, and hopefully it can give you some insights into ways to avoid conflict within your own business. And with that, have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week on Halloween. All right, take care.